Oh my gosh, thank you for coming. You work
My
for
pleasure.
such a powerful organization. Tell me a little bit about the Drug Alliance and how you got involved with them.
Absolutely. So the Drug Policy Alliance is a national organization trying to end the war on drugs and really trying to move drug use out of the criminal justice system and into a public health system altogether. So I've been working on criminal justice reform for most of my life, trying to reduce the numbers of people we incarcerate in this country. And ending marijuana prohibition is one of the leading ways that we can reduce the over-incarceration and particularly the disparate incarceration of Black and brown Americans.
That was going to be my next question. For medical or marijuana incarceration, who are the people most affected? So you would definitely say people of color.
The statistics are really overwhelming. In California, you are 12 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana if you're Black. And yet, Black, white, and Latinos use and sell marijuana at roughly the same rates. White people a little bit more so for both using and selling. And if you're Latino, it's 4 times more likely.
Wow.
So yes, depending on the color of your skin, you're in much more trouble for your marijuana use.
Interesting, interesting. Now, while we're on that subject of medical marijuana use, tell me what has been most prevalent in the past few months as far as in the news? What are we more focused on when it comes to medical marijuana?
Well, in California, so in California there's been a lot of excitement and some frustration over how to regulate medical marijuana. For many years we have been trying to move forward legislation since Prop 215 in 1996 where we got medical marijuana. There has never been any sort of statewide regulation system like we have in other states, Colorado, New Mexico.
Right.
We have regulations, so it's sort of chaotic in California. Each city has to figure out how they're going to regulate medical marijuana dispensaries, if they're going to ban it, who gets a license, how they pay taxes. And so the Drug Policy Alliance and CalNormal and many of our allies have been for years trying to regulate medical marijuana in the state, and our state representatives have been unwilling to do that. So this year, the cops came to the table and said, we want to regulate medical marijuana, and we want to help you regulate medical marijuana. And this was the Police Chiefs Association, and so we were happy that they came to the table, but a little worried.
A little wary.
A little wary about what that might mean. And so they put forward, we had a bill, and then they put forward their bill. Our bill died, and their bill survived.
What a surprise.
Surprise, yeah. And so they wanted to continue to work with us, though, so we continued to propose amendments, and in the end, they weren't willing to make the changes in their bill in order to make it something we could accept. And one of the biggest concern that I think the reform community had was that the bill would have banned anybody with a prior drug conviction from getting a license to legally dispense medical marijuana.
To dispense, okay.
To dispense, grow, transport, any sort of license.
But they could still use if they had a prescription.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but we felt that the people who have suffered the most from the war on drugs and from marijuana prohibition shouldn't then be kept out of the system once it comes above ground.
Absolutely.
And so in the end, we couldn't come to agreement. We opposed the bill, and we were able to kill the bill.
Yay!
Yay!
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this before I move on to my next official question, because I did have some questions kind of outlined that I wanted to ask you. But I just want to make this clear. If I am a patient in California, which is a big state, okay, you're telling me if I have a legal prescription, moving between or from city to city, I need to figure out what the laws are because I could be in violation depending on what?
Well, you, the patient, aren't in violation
Okay.
because the state gives you the right to use and to grow marijuana as a patient.
Okay.
But many cities ban dispensaries, so you will have to leave your city and go to another city to, if you don't grow your own, you live in an apartment building, whatever it may
Sure,
be, you don't have a
sure.
green thumb, then you'll have to leave your city. And for parts of California, people have to travel 60, 100, 200 miles to get to a
Wow.
place where they can get their medicine.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now that the legislative session is over here in California, where are we when we look at the board, when we look at that whiteboard? What have we achieved and what are we still working on?
Well, the whiteboard says 0.
All your hard work is not in vain, though. We really do appreciate you guys.
And some of it's good that it's 0 because most of the marijuana bills that folks try to move through every year are bad. So, for example, this year we saw 0 tolerance for driving with any marijuana in your system. We were able to kill that bill, so nothing happened. Banning dispensaries within 1,000 feet of a school, that bill died. So every year there's a number of bad bills that we're able to keep from moving forward, but unfortunately also some of the good ones. So where we are at this point, the legislative session's over. It won't start again until 2015, and we are all focused on 2016 legalization.
Okay.
We will be running a ballot initiative in 2016, a lot like Colorado, to fully legalize for adults.
Okay.
And so we really want to just shift our energy away from sort of the crazy Sacramento process where not a whole lot gets done, a lot of talk, but not a lot of progress, and try to put something into law through the will of the voters that reflects the public opinion in California.
Why would we want to put a dispensary near a school?
We don't necessarily, but 1,000 feet is too far.
Okay.
600 feet is the acceptable standard, because if you do 1,000 feet, then in more urban areas, more dense areas, you'll end up having no space. That's 1,000 feet from a school. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And you touched on Sacramento. What's going on there? What's next for Sacramento? What's happening there right now?
Well, right now, what's happening in general in Sacramento is the governor has all the bills that made it through the legislature on his desk, and he has to veto or sign those bills. There's no marijuana bills on his desk, so we don't have to worry about that. But we do have a couple of very important bills on his desk that we're hoping he signs in other drug policy areas. And meanwhile, everybody else is beginning to look at what bills they'll run for 2015. And there are a number of people in the marijuana reform community, as well as in the medical marijuana industry, who are looking to try to regulate medical marijuana again in 2015, which is not something that we think is the best idea.
Okay.
Mainly because we've tried and it doesn't work, and we don't believe that you can actually regulate through the Sacramento process. And so we don't want to expend that energy doing this again in 2015 when we should be focused on creating a system that fully legalizes and regulates marijuana through the ballot process.
Okay, so you do believe in some type of regulation, just
Absolutely.
Do you think this is more of a, do you think this should be more of a, under the, like a horticulture type of regulation as opposed to, you know, the federal government coming in and saying it's illegal and then we're going to send you to prison? How do you, where do you think that
You know,
falls?
it's funny because we have been grappling with which department would regulate it. Would it be under the Department of Agriculture? Would it be under the Department of Consumer Affairs? We want it to be under the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control. That's how we did it in Colorado. It's sort of how it's happening in Washington State. And of all the different government bureaucracies, ABC is the one that has the most experience in regulating something like this. So that's where we'd like it to be.
Sure.
But there'll have to be a close partnership with the Department of Agriculture because of the growing piece of, you know, the growing side of this with the Department of Environment. And so there'll have to be a lot of collaboration. The good news is that once we legalize, there'll be such a great tax revenues that those departments will get money to do this work, which they don't have right now.
That should inspire them.
Well, yes, the departments are with us for the most part. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So, you know, we were talking in our top 5 stories earlier about Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is like the place to watch right now, right?
Yes.
All of our laws come out of there. And we know that they're going to be voting on recreational use. What do you think about that? Because on a federal level, we look at certain, or on a state level, I'm sorry, we look at like mostly the Midwest states, and they haven't moved anywhere on the use of marijuana at all. So what do you think is going to happen if it becomes legal in Washington for recreational use? You think everybody else is going to follow suit?
No, that's going to happen when you do it in California. But Washington, what's going on in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. is important, and Drug Policy Alliance is leading the initiative there. We have actually a medical doctor, Dr. Malik Burnett, who's running our initiative, and that is so unique because it's already complicated when you have states legalizing something that's illegal under federal law.
Right.
And then Washington, D.C. is even more complex because they don't even have states' rights. They are pretty much run by the federal government, even though they sort of have their own municipal government.
Right.
So what's happening now is the federal government is saying that as soon as they pass this legalization initiative, and we do believe it will pass, they're going to make it null and void. And so I think what you're going to see is this clash of sort of local government versus federal government.
So it won't go through right away.
No, there'll be a lot of political grandstanding and probably some court action, and that will probably go on for a couple of years.
Wow.
But we do hope, getting back to sort of when do you see that domino effect across the country, we are hoping that this will be somewhat like the same-sex marriage movement, where you get to sort of a critical mass, maybe 6 to 10 states, and at that point the federal government has to begin to wrestle with the issue.
The people want it to happen.
Right.
Wow, you are a wealth of information. Will you please come back and
I'd
do
love
another
to.
show?
I'd love to.
All right. Well,
we work on these issues every day.
Absolutely, and you're a busy woman. You're doing important work out there, and we really do appreciate you and the Drug Alliance. You seem to have some really good supporters. What was that, Montel Williams?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sting,
yeah, we have a fantastic board, and I didn't bring my list of our board of directors, but I did bring you some little stickers and refrigerator
stickers.
magnets.
Yes. Oh, I love these because you can make yourself.
Yes.
In your.
You can write words about ending the war on drugs. You can write poems.
Can you guys see this? Can you zoom in on this? Probably not. It's so tiny. All right, maybe we'll give some of these away if you have extra.
Well, I've only brought 3 of those,
okay.
but there's a couple in the back room there you can
Thank
give away.
you so much,
Lynn.
Next time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so we'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, please email myself, Kita at Movie and Music Network. If you'd like to get in touch with Lynne Lyman. Lynne, do you have an email address?
llyman@drugpolicy.org, and my Twitter handle is @LynneLyman.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Good job. Cool.
I support the Drug Policy Alliance because it fosters debate on drug policy.
Because the war on drugs represents an extraordinary violation of human rights.
Because whether you use drugs or not, you deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, and dignity.
I support the Drug Policy Alliance because I'm a scientist.
Because the United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world.
I support the Drug Policy Alliance because I want my children to receive honest drug education.
Because it's time to step out of our comfort zone and begin to tell the truth about drugs and our failed drug policies.
Because the war on drugs is a war on people of color.
The Drug Policy Alliance promotes harm reduction.
Because the drug problem is a health problem, not a criminal problem.
I support the Drug Policy Alliance because I believe in the right to sovereignty over one's own mind and body.
Because so many people are incarcerated.
I know. I spent 12 years in prison because of a first-time nonviolent drug offense.
Because I believe in personal freedom and personal choice.
Because the drug war
is not the war on drugs, it's
the war on people. I'm Tony Popper.
I'm George Soros.
I'm Sting, and I am the Drug Policy Alliance.
I'm Larice Harvey.
I am Dr. Mathilde Krim.
I'm Elizabeth Sarnoff.
I'm Montel Williams, and I am the Drug Policy Alliance.
I am the Drug Policy Alliance.
I am the Drug Policy Alliance.
And I am the Drug Policy Alliance.